The Orange Zone, sponsored by Billy Whitaker Cars and Trucks.
What's up? What's up? Welcome into the award-winning Orange Zone podcast. A reminder, you can find every episode on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. If you're watching on YouTube, what's up from the Skycam? Make sure you guys are liking, commenting, and of course, subscribing to be a part of this journey with us. Today, we are getting into the nitty-gritty of Syracuse men's basketball's loss to FSU. We're also talking about a ranked women's program today, but we're starting off on the men's side, and we have Lawrence Moten here. We have SU's all-time leading scorer. It's Poetry and Moten. We have Samantha Croston. We also have Rachel Culver on the producer mic. So this one, Syracuse up at halftime. It was a one-point game with 8 minutes to play, and they get blown out, guys, 85-69. Now, Poetry wanted to let me have it. Right when he got in here, I said, save it for the pod. What is on your mind? What is your biggest takeaway from that loss?
Biggest takeaway from that loss, I was there, so I got to see it live, and I didn't like what
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I didn't like what I saw. If it's anything I can say, being a former player, I think they were still stuck on the Saturday's game for hitting the game winner. Yes. Everybody, all hype and honestly, if I can say this, sometimes you think your doesn't stink, and this is a gut check and reality check for us that we're probably not as good yet as we think we are. So hopefully they can turn it around, which is a quick turnaround Saturday against a good North Carolina State team. But to shoot 1 for 14 from 3 points. From the three-point line was unheard of to me. Too many missed free throws. And when you miss free throws and you don't make threes in this day and time, you're not going to win any games. Me and you and Sam could have made at least 3.
Oh, I know that for a fact.
And to go 1 for 14, 1 for 15 was very shocking.
Sam, how about you? What's on your mind? What was your biggest – what did you feel – as you were watching last night, and now that you've had a night to sleep on it, what's on your mind?
Yeah, I mean, the 11 missed free throws, as Uncle Brenax would say, free throws matter.
It's true.
And they really did. 1 for 14 from 3, yes, definitely worrisome. But really, what stuck out to me was this offense being stifled. And you look at Judah Mintz and his numbers; he had a 28-point outing, which really can't be looked at as a bad thing. However, it felt like it was sort of a one-trick pony kind of night. There wasn't really enough ball movement offensively, and that wasn't the game plan they came in with, which because that's what Coach Autry said after the game. He said Judah had the ball a lot. That wasn't the plan. It just happened to be that way. We did not do a good job offensively. They just took us out of our offense, anything we tried. Important to note that, listen, they tried everything they could, and Florida State has been playing really well.
Yeah.
They came into this game playing really hot. It's a good team. But the bottom line is they simply got outplayed. My biggest takeaway is that when this team does lose, when it rains, it pours.
Ooh.
They're losing by 20-plus points almost every single time they lose. So they're either winning, and you know what I wish I would have saw? I wish I would have seen, what would have made me feel better is like a really close loss, a loss that was close all the way to the end. If it was going to be a loss, fight, push, keep pushing. But it did. It's like the wheels fell off the train entirely.
Yeah.
No sign of urgency. I didn't see any urgency in that game. It was a lackluster. They were battling in the first half, back and forth. I think Florida State went up like 6 and 7, and then we happened to go up 7 and didn't stick the nail in the coffin. But just no sign of urgency. Guys, sometimes your ego can take over, and the way, from what I saw, it just looked like they thought they were just going to go in there and expected to win the game, and instead of understanding that no matter what, you still have to fight night in and night out, and that urgency wasn't there last night. Benny Williams, having issues, getting upset, and this is what I don't like the different moods. I'm a guy, it's either you're going to be one way and it is what it is. I'm not down with the different moves, and if you're not getting your way or you're not playing well, you're not cheering your other teammates on. I don't like that, and hopefully that changes. But definitely no sign of urgency last night, and hopefully we can change that Saturday.
And not to push back on the urgency, but I found it to be more of urgency because of nervousness. And the first half was funny, man, because not only were they up by a point, but if they were anything but the 1 for 7 that they were in the first half and in sinking those free throws, it was the type of game where it's like, yo, they should be up 10 to 12 points. And they were looking like more so the comfortable, better team had things been falling. But again, I'm like, okay, only halftime. They have time to correct it. And the second half happens and things still aren't going their way. And what are normally those, the things from beyond the arc ain't working, let's get it into the paint. And normally what are those easy baskets for Malik Brown, where you see him slamming? That's where we saw the height of this Florida State team come in. Because they were blocking him, bro.
Yes,
they were blocking him, and they weren't letting, and it wasn't just Brown, it was anyone getting in there. And so when those things weren't working, the things that this team relies on, I felt it turned, that urgency became nervousness. They were getting risky with stuff and forcing things, which in turn led to what? Slow getting back on defense, because some of those points in transition were just inexcusable.
And a part of that, when we talk about Florida State outplaying them and outrunning them, I think a part of that is because Florida State is one of those teams that will play 12 plus people per game. It's a different style than Syracuse is used to playing. They're playing more people. They're not as tired. And I almost think they have a little bit more wiggle room as far as fouling is concerned and whatnot, because they have so many different options and so many different people to rely on. So I think that's the kind of team where you come in with a game plan and it is tough to figure out how exactly you're going to approach it. But what I do know is that last night it didn't work. And I do think part of the problem was that Judah had the ball in his hands too much. But how do you fix that? That's where I turn to you.
Yeah, well, Judah is the star player on the team. He is our go-to guy. So, and as a point guards have the ball in their hands 90% of the time. So this is something that we can't change. But I also feel that we talked about it last time, the inside presence, with Brown. We have no big man that has a post move, can truly make a post move. And hopefully we can work on that. I look at Bell and I look at Justin, and they're not making shots. And when you're not making shots, drive the ball to the basket.
Yes, sir.
Even JJ, he had 2 good games, and I guess he felt he was a 3-point shooter now. Drive. Still take your mid-range game. And this is what I'm talking about egos, and sometimes you're thinking that you're there, but you're really not there.
Well, quickly on that note, I'm curious, and we can get to Bell, but especially because you were at the game last night, I know you weren't, but you watched it. Do you guys think that Justin Taylor should still be a starter?
Personally, no.
No.
And to me, I'm granted I'm not a coach, but from the outside looking in, and I'm on a team, I understand who has the hot hands. I understand who's playing well, and you ride those. You ride the players that are at the top of their game. And right now, Justin Taylor's he's not making shots.
Right.
And granted, Bell's been a little bit, all over the place, but for 2 of your starters to combine for 7 points, 5 points for Bell, 2 points for Justin, I just think that's setting you up at a disadvantage, that you're kind of waiting to start getting the numbers that you're wanting when those subs are coming in. Why not start the game with that? And speaking of, I think a lot of people were really excited to see Quadir Copeland get in the game. He could not have had a worse start. Came in, 2 immediate fouls, and boom, right back. So that you could feel it, even though the first half wasn't terrible. There was that energy that I think was almost a pre-show to what was going to come.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your aspect on Justin, like I said, good guy, but he's not getting it done. And honestly, this comes for coaching too. We got to understand this is Adrian's first year as a head coach, so he's still trying to figure out the nuances and who's hot and who's not. But a situation like that, where I've seen Justin for quite some time now, within the last month, and we haven't really gotten anything what we've expected. So put Benny in. Start Benny. Maybe it'll give him a little confidence to want, because he's an emotional guy.
Right.
Sometimes, as a coach, and I always tell people this, everybody has a different emotion. You have to know how to plug into it as a coach. Some people you can yell at, and when you yell at them, they're going to give it their all. And some you got to stroke. and say, it's going to be all right, buddy. You can do this. And Benny's sort of like that.
No, it is so true, though, because I thought about that a lot. I was like, you know, when you take a player out of a starting position, you also have to think about the way that is going to impact them mentally.
Absolutely.
Because no coach ever does that with the intention of actually punishing or anything like that. It's just wanting a different look, thinking a different combination could work, but still wanting that player to improve and to get better.
Absolutely.
And some players, and I don't know what kind of player Justin Taylor would be in this regard, but I do feel like there are some players who get moved out of a starting lineup and step up in the face of adversity. It actually makes them better or makes them willing to work harder. That can happen.
Absolutely.
Or it also cannot happen.
Absolutely.
End of the day, though, that still might have to be a decision that gets made.
Yeah, and credit to Justin, man. He's, you know, even after a game like that, and granted it was their first time that media spoke with them at home after a loss because they had been, you know, undefeated at home, but he's, you know, one of the few ones that was, you know, he was facing the music and he was there to the end till the last person wanted to talk to him. So credit to him for that. But right now, it's just I think he's better off as a role player coming off the bench. And hopefully, like Sam said, maybe that is the spark and things get back into place. But right now, I just think there's people that are on that bench that should be starting and make it a more effective team from the get-go.
Yeah.
Last thing on that note, and then we can move on from him. The first thing is even though he started last night, he still did get bench minutes. So in that regard, okay, there are still a lot of other people who are getting some time and playing as well. But I am interested to see how he responds to all of this, because I think there are certain players when you look at them and you really think what you see is what you get, and this is their ceiling. And I do want to go on record in saying that is not the way I feel about Justin Taylor. I do feel he has more to give, and I do think that things could have went differently for him even this season, and I'm very interested to see what he can do in the future. I know that a big reason why he got brought here and his role on the team is to be a three-point shooter, and I do think he can shoot better than what we've been seeing lately. But you have to go as a coach, I think, and make a decision based off what you see.
Absolutely, Sam. And, we can also say this, you know, there's the real thing in life and in college sports. It's called sophomore slump.
Oh,
And,
yes, sir.
And he's having that right now. There's no doubt about it. And hopefully that'll change. And I think, like Sam said, just him coming off the bench and, you know, having that urgency and not much pressure on him. Because now I think he's mentally feeling the pressure because he's wide open and those shots are there. And I just think it's all mental now.
Yeah.
So hopefully he can change that. We still with you, Justin, but we with you coming off the bench.
He gives the energy that he makes those in practice, doesn't he?
Yes, he does.
Such a nice stroke. And
yes, he does.
Yeah.
A hard-working guy, you know, and it's not just shooting, you know. We know that's what we brought him in here to do, is to be a three-point shooter, but he rebounds and he plays solid defense, and honestly, that's why he's playing a lot more than he should.
Right, especially with these situations where they're, you know, overmatched height-wise because Brown's on a big dude.
Yeah.
Bring Justin in. He can be aggressive and play against probably most fours in the ACC, and at the very least match up with the threes. But we're going to send it over to Ashley Wenskoski. She was at the game last night and, got to be in the locker room, hear from the coach, hear from the players, and really just break down their point of view on how things went.
Hey guys, well, this was Syracuse's game to lose at halftime, and they lost it. It's something we've been talking about recently. The Orange just can't rely on those late second half comebacks to try and win these games, because we knew sooner or later the comeback wasn't going to happen, and it did not happen here tonight against the Seminoles. Syracuse squandered their opportunities. They were visibly frustrated in the last 10 minutes or so of the game, and that was one of my really big takeaways from sitting courtside. You could see it written all over Judah Mintz's face, Chris Bell's face, Quadir Copeland's face. They were just poor body language, frustrated with their inability to get anything going on offense, and they squandered this one to the Seminoles by 16 points, something that seems unbelievable when you consider they were up by 7 even in the second half. This game just never had any rhythm to it. The Orange getting into some foul trouble, as did Florida State, but Syracuse's foul trouble affected them in terms of Quadir Copeland, the guy that's been their catalyst, so to speak, in terms of energy and emotion this season, was held largely out of the first half because Copeland came in, immediately got 2 fouls, and then came out until the second half. And I'm not going to sit here and blame the loss on that here tonight, but it certainly did not help when that's your guy that's kind of your spark and your energy, and you didn't have him for a lot of this game. Like I said, visibly frustrated. I would go so far as to say they laid down and died in the last 5 minutes of this game. They just were not in it. And that's something that Adrian Autry reiterated post-game. He said they weren't getting back on defense, they weren't getting those blocks, and they weren't even trying to get any of that offensive momentum going.
I mean, we didn't shoot it well. Obviously, that would have changed the game. We still could have won. But, I mean, we didn't garbage time.
Do you think their depth is able to wear you guys down the stretch?
No, I think we got in foul trouble early. I kind of threw us off. Qual was out. I mean, I missed a million free throws in the first half. Our flow was off in the beginning, but second half we came out. We had all our pieces back. They just bullied us in the paint. They walked us. He bullied us. That's what it was.
When you say your flow is off, what was off character about your game?
My game?
Yeah.
I didn't say my. I was saying our flow.
Oh, okay. Yeah. But what's out of character when you guys aren't in that mode that you guys have been this season?
Oh no, Quad just got his 2 fouls early. Lee got some fouls early, and that was it. We let Watkins do whatever he wanted.
When shots aren't falling, it kind of drains you a little bit. Especially when they're scoring and you're not. But just goes to what I said earlier. We got to work on having that next possession mentality and not letting our offense dictate how well we play defense. Obviously, he wants us to flush this one out, but he knows that this game came down to toughness, and we didn't have a lot of that today. So we're going to look forward to bringing that, being ourselves in that game on Saturday against another really good team. So.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think the score kind of is how the game actually went. Obviously, credit to them, they played great second half, but we just got to play all 40 minutes. We know that we can't play 20, 30 minutes, whatever it is. We got to finish out the game stronger. And once they started getting momentum in the second half, we kind of just started playing lackadaisical and turn the ball over and let them get easy buckets. So go back, watch the film, learn from it, but just be tough for all 40 minutes.
So you heard there, it was a very dejected and depressed locker room, a team that's learning how to lose at home for the first time this season. They have not dropped a game in the JMA Wireless Dome before tonight, but there's a first time for everything. The quote that stuck out to me was J.J. Starling saying, "They were tougher than us," and that was really just the story here tonight. Florida State was tougher than them in a back-and-forth game where you have the lead for a few minutes, they have the lead for a few minutes. You can't just lay down and give up in the second half, and Florida State did not do that, and they walked away with a road win. And it's a win that really could haunt Syracuse come March when you consider that FSU has kind of put themselves in the bubble conversation. And that was a conversation that Syracuse was beginning to get in after the buzzer beater win over Miami. But now this puts them another step back, puts the Orange at 13-6, and still really without one of those marquee wins. So a couple of quick stats for you here tell the story. The Orange just 1 for 14 from three-pointers tonight, and that was something that they looked like they were getting better at. Pitt, Miami, those shots were falling. They did not fall tonight, and Florida State had 10 steals here, which is a statistical category that Syracuse and FSU have been going back and forth on this season in terms of leading the ACC. But FSU had 10, Syracuse had 5, and Syracuse turned the ball over 16 times, which was really the major difference. Can't turn the ball 16 times over against any team. Not to UNC, not to Florida State, not to a non-conference opponent. You just can't do it. And that was the difference here tonight. So a letdown here at the Dome on Tuesday night. Hopefully the Orange can take some momentum back and kind of get the ball rolling again against NC State on Saturday night. Really no break in the schedule. When you get into this portion of conference play, there just is no break in the schedule. They will welcome the Wolfpack on Saturday night, and they look to turn some things around because, like I said, if they're going to be in that bubble conversation, they need to keep stacking those ACC wins. From the Dome, I'll send it back to you guys.
Appreciate Ashley doing that. And Rachel Culver, back behind the set on the producer mic. Rachel, you gave us some good notes here. What stuck out to you? What are the numbers that are just sticking out to in your head?
I mean, it's something we've talked about already. We call it the charity stripe for a reason, right?
Hey-o.
We go there for a reason, and we know what we have to do when we get there. And when you're not
free.
doing that, that's huge. And I think there's a lot of things, like you mentioned, probably coming off that win, the adrenaline that's associated with that, the way you kind of feel, those emotions that you have associated with the last time you stepped on that court. You're all still feeling that, but it is kind of next man up mentality, and you kind of have to move on to the next game and separate those two things. It's worth noting, I know you mentioned the height of Florida State, but according to Ken Pomeroy, that is actually the tallest team in the country. And when you consider the rotation, like Sam said, of those 12, 11 guys that are constantly getting on the floor, and they're still having those numbers of one of the tallest teams on the country, that's significant. So I kind of want to ask you guys, is this like a situation we feel that we can boil this down to a bad game, something that we can move on from going forward, or is this shedding light on some bigger issues for this team?
All right, if you guys don't mind, I'm going to start. I think that was the first time that we saw, and partially because of the height on this team and the style of FSU playing, that was the first time I saw us really getting bullied down low. And Malik Brown's a tough kid, and he goes up against guys that are bigger than him. But when there's two out there that are, in that 6'10", 6'11" range, whatever it was, that was the first time where, plays where I saw him that are normally making easy dunks, he's getting the ball blocked, and it didn't matter who was down there. They made everything difficult. And if there was a high percentage chance Syracuse was going to make it, they were fouling. They had 14 fouls in the first half. If Syracuse had 14 fouls in the first half, it's a major issue. Why? Because they're utilizing bench guys, but chances are most of them are going to the starters. If you broke down the 14 fouls, I think only 6 were to the starting 5. So they have that ability to get away with that. And how you beat it is by making your free throws. And Syracuse didn't do it. But how about you guys? Does this game worry you? Is it a blip? What's the feeling?
It doesn't necessarily worry me that Syracuse lost. It worries me how much Syracuse lost by. And you even tweeted something about this, but this is one of those games where you get the feeling like it could haunt you come March. So my answer to whether or not this game worries me is I don't know yet. What I do know is that Mike Waters had an interesting tweet where he said, in case Syracuse fans are wondering, the Orange's home loss to Florida State last night resulted in a 14-spot drop in the net rankings from 68 to 82. That does concern me a little bit.
That's a big drop. It is.
Okay. Yeah, that net stuff is not, it's for the birds. I don't believe in all that.
That doesn't concern him at all.
Yeah, I don't believe in all that net stuff. And no, it doesn't bother me. This game doesn't bother me. Like I said, this is pretty much a gut check to see, like how are we going to take this next game. This is one that you want to, you watch the film and you talk about it and see what you did wrong. And I don't even look 85-69. I'm not worried about that. What I was worried about was 1 for 14 from the 3. If we let's say we go 4 for 14, and instead of 11 free throws, we make 8.
Right.
Whole different ball game.
It's a game.
So I look at that and I just say, it's one of those nights where we were still celebrating from the game that Copeland hit the big shot, and he was celebrating, so he had to foul early and not get into the game. It was that's just my mental. I thought it was a lot of that, and we should be all right. We'd be all right.
If I can just say one more thing on that, I think if I had to pick out my biggest concern, it's not like you have the bad shooting nights. You have those things, those games where you just get stifled on offense. The defense knows what to expect. They know what to look for. What concerns me is, like Moten said, the way the wheels fell off. Like, you were in that game. There's no reason you should be losing by the score that you are losing that by. That was like a mental checkout, and that's what's concerning to me.
And that's not the first time that's happened. Where it feels like when the wheels start falling off, they have a really hard time of finding the screws and the bolts and getting that thing back on track, because it starts going down quick, and it sucks. Because looking at that score on paper that the committee and whoever's going to be looking at come March, that score doesn't tell the full story, but the full story doesn't matter when that's the final score. And that's not a good feeling.
And we also talk about a consistent second score.
Yes, sir.
We still don't have that.
Yeah.
We've been looking for it. We know we're going to get out of Judah, but that second guy has to step up, and we don't know who it is yet.
It's leaning towards JJ, but you're right. It's when those shots aren't falling from deep.
Yeah.
My man, like, watching him one-on-one is a thing of beauty most of the time. So I want him going to the lane a lot more. And, ultimately, I think they respond big Saturday. I think if I'd be really pissed off with how that went down, and I think we could see a big win, maybe even a shellacking over NC State, who's also a very good team. Yeah, I don't drop the shellacking often, but when I do, I mean business.
I'm going to that game as a fan.
Are you really?
As a fan. I'm off on Saturday. It's the first game I'm going to as a fan, which I think will be interesting. I think that's a unique perspective to actually be. I mean, I've obviously been at games just shooting and whatnot, but even shooting, I feel like you're seeing most of the game through the lens. It's different than just watching.
Absorbing it differently.
Absorbing.
Absolutely. Yeah. And Dave Bing is going to be there. They're honoring Dave Bing, the great Dave Bing, great man, great mentor, someone who I look up to very much so. So hopefully they can come strong and play well for him, because they didn't play well for poetry last night. I was at that game.
He was there. Yeah, Ring of Honor, Dave Bing. That means Boeheim's going to be in the house. So I think there's going to be a really good energy in that building. So I'm liking the orange over the Wolfpack. And I do want to give, I don't know if people can have seen it from the wide shot, but we have a brand new Otto bobblehead.
Wow.
This is different from the one we've had. He's got really long legs, this Otto. And I want to give a shout out to Phil Schuyler, co-founder and CEO of the Bobblehead Hall of Fame. Sent this to Sam and I in the mail.
Isn't that cool?
And so if you check out the bottom, it's number 29 of 2023. So go get your Otto. This is a pretty big deal. National Bobblehead Hall of Fame and Museum. Check out bobbleheadhall.com. Check that out. Cool. That's a good free ad for them, as they helped us out. Help us out with the set.
That's cool.
Get your Otto, man. Get your Otto. Final thoughts. My
final thought is that is really the tallest Otto I've ever seen. Like the Ottos in the dome are not this tall.
So what are we thinking?
On that Otto.
So maybe Otto's he's becoming more of a small forward these days. That's it.
Maybe Otto can complete a post move.
Hey,
exactly.
that's what we need.
Right,
with those legs.
I mean, check out the wingspan on that guy. Look at that.
I like it.
He's getting ready
Hands
for the combine.
Up, ready to play defense. Defense creates offense.
There we go. All right. Orange Zone Podcast. Billy Whitaker, Cars and Trucks. Thank you, Billy. Thank you, Rachel Culver. Samantha Croston. Poetry. Tommy Sladek. We're out of here. We'll see you back in probably just a few days. Peace. All right.
You didn't want trivia?
Did we have trivia?
Yeah, it was at the bottom.
Oh, shoot.
It's not entirely relevant because now that they lost at home. But
when was the last time Syracuse men's basketball had an undefeated season at home, and who was the leading scorer? I feel like
undefeated season at home. Wow.
Was that one of your years?
No. I was almost thinking. I want to say that was that Dion Waiters and Fab Mello and those guys?
So what would that have been, 2013?
2008,
14? Waiters was a year older than me, so he didn't come in till 12 or 11 or 12, I think.
I'm thinking around that time because they started out 31-0.
Yeah. The Tyler Ennis year? Would have been that year?
No, Scoop Jardine was the point.
Oh, so it was Scoop and Rick Jackson?
31-0 and Fab Mello, may he rest in peace. And who else did they have? What year? Well, I'm thinking 2012.
2011, 2012. That's right.
Whoa.
Wow!
But you have not yet named the leading.
Chills.
You have not yet named the leading scorer.
The leading scorer. Oh yeah, the leading scorer for that team was it wasn't Dion. It was the guy Wesley Johnson. Am I right?
No.
Oh, okay.
Was it MC Dubs?
No.
Michael Carter Williams? Dang.
It was Dion?
Chris Joseph.
My man C. Joseph. Oh, my bad, C. Joseph. Carroll alumni. My bad, bro. My bad.
Hey, shout out Archbishop Carroll.
Oh, my goodness. That's terrible.
Shout out Mount Sinai High School. Shout out North Penn High School.
Hey, you got the year, though.
Shout out Port Byron, Union Springs. No, just Port Byron.
Just Union Springs.
Just Union Springs, sorry. All right, that's it for trivia. We're out of here. Whole crew. Peace. See ya.